sorry.
3, 2, 1.
Oh, sure.
That way we're going at the same time you're.
Okay.
I think he just wants you to say it.
Okay. You ready? Okay.
Good evening. This is the Molalla Planning Commission meeting for September 3rd, 2025. Will you please join me in the flag salute? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Next is roll call. I'm going to start with
Commissioner Nellis here.
Commissioner Sharp here.
Commissioner Eaglebear,
Commissioner Ansel present.
Commissioner Ricky, present.
Commissioner Potts, present.
Community Development Tech, Jessica Worth, present.
Planning Manager, Dan Zinder, present.
Assistant City Manager, Matt Corthell, present.
thank you so much. Guess next up is our consent agenda, and that is going to be for, forgive me, it's been a minute. Quick, how fast you forget. You can do motion to approve the meeting minutes from July 2nd, 2025.
I motion to approve the consent. I motion to approve the minutes for July 2nd, 2025.
I second.
Is there any discussion or needs for any corrections or anybody noticed? Ms. Worth, will you please call the vote?
Commissioner Ansel.
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp.
Aye.
Commissioner Ornelas.
Aye.
Commissioner Ricky.
Aye.
Commissioner Potts.
Aye.
Chairman Eaglebear.
Aye.
Thank you. The vote passes 6-0.
All right. We currently have no presentations from or anything like that. Now is the time to receive public comment on items not listed on the agenda. Citizens are allowed up to 3 minutes to present information relevant to the city, but not listed as an item on the agenda. Prior to speaking, citizens shall complete a comment form and deliver it to the support staff. The Planning Commission does not generally engage in dialogue with those making comments, but may refer the issue to the Community Development Director. Complaints shall first be addressed at the department level prior to addressing the Planning Commission. Has the staff received any written communications? No, thank you. And we have no public hearings this evening. So that moves us into our general business. It's like Mr. Corthell, may we have your staff report?
Sir. Thank you, Chairman, and good evening, Commissioners. So this is another update on Senate Bill 1537. You guys might recall a couple months back, I came in here and let you guys know that it looked like planning commissions, basically the state over, had been gutted as far as your quasi-judicial decision-making goes. Obviously, took a much closer read of that statute when we were dealing with it for some land use things that were a little bit, peripheral to the quasi-judicial stuff, and I noticed in there that there was some direct conflicts in the statute itself. One was saying to follow this set of rules, the other was saying to follow this set of rules, and you can't follow both at the same time. So I actually conferred with our city attorney, got that advice back, and that's the advice that I provided you initially. Since then, there's been some new things to come up, and it looks like this bill might be subject to some amendments. So in the interim, I think we're going to be comfortable proceeding with quasi-judicial land use hearings as normal. So I'll just kind of give you guys the update real quick in the in a more articulate way here. SB 1537 was adopted in 2024. Amongst the provisions in the bill are sections 45.3A and 45.6, which seem to contradict one another on the question of whether type 3 site design review is allowed any longer. Based on this conflict, staff sought city attorney advice on April 11, 2025. They advised us in summary that the provisions of ORS 197-195 appear to be mandatory. In other words, it's mandatory that we follow that no quasi-judicial hearings other than variances and conditional use permits. They also offered that the possibility of a type 2.5 process, wherein the Planning Commission issues a decision without hearing, may be a viable alternative as well, though the guidance on what that would look like is scant. Staff then received updated advice from the city's attorney's office on August 5th of this year. The guidance acknowledges the contradiction in the statute and ultimately counsels that we can continue our type 3 hearings as required by the code until a clarifying amendment is adopted. Just to be verbatim, because obviously, and this is always, it's always good to, have a little update on how some of the things work in local government. And one of those is that as long as we're following the advice of our city attorney, none of us can be held personally liable for those decisions made based on their advice. So that's a really important one. A lot of times we, or staff knows the answer, but we go and we seek the answer again from the city attorney's office so that we can have the comfort of having that document, so we can't be held personally liable for those decisions. And so the one change, this is from the city attorney, the one change in my interpretation since our prior email is that I don't think a hearing is necessarily prohibited. The process outlined in RS 197-195 doesn't include a hearing, but also doesn't explicitly prohibit one, and Section 5 contemplates that one could occur. So based on this guidance, staff will continue to process applications that our development code specifies as type 3 in accordance with the development code's requirement for a quasi-judicial land use hearing until further notice. So we're back on. So that's nice. I mean, obviously, there's plenty for you guys, a lot of work for you guys to do with long-range planning and providing, comment and to the council for other things that are going on. But I think this is really kind of your main function as far as the quasi-judicial hearings go. I mean, any body or any group of folks in the community can, get together and submit something to the council recommending X, Y, or Z on any process we go through. What they can't do that you can is hold quasi-judicial land use hearings. So this is kind of what differentiates the Planning Commission from any old citizen group, as it were. So I think we're going to continue with that based on the city attorney's guidance, and I just wanted to give you guys an update to that end. We may be hearing more on, I'm pretty positive we'll hear more on this, whether that's more saying, hey, yeah, no, we didn't mean to erase land use hearings, or more meaning we did mean to erase them and now we really erased them. I don't know what that would be. But until further notice, we're going to proceed as usual. So that was all. Does anyone have questions on that?
No, I don't.
Yeah. There's a lot, but it's
Yeah.
there's a lot. Yeah. Who knows? Right? So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up is Mr. Zinder. May I have your report, please?
Just figured we'd update you on a couple substantial happenings with our urban growth boundary amendment since July, and we wanted to update you on them. And the first one is that our housing production strategy got remanded by the LCD, so it's back in our court to do some more revisions and bring it in. So I gave you sort of a written staff report in the packet that goes through sort of some of the the different statutes and provides the remand letter and explains what happened. I'm going to do a little more storytelling here to sort of give you a sense of what happened and where we stand. So I think it was 2020, but in 2020, two major bills were passed: the House Bill 2001 and House Bill 2003. So the 2001 required that cities develop a housing needs analysis. That's the document that tells you, how much land you're going to need for housing in the upcoming future. It evaluates your current land supply and basically just spits out a number and says, hey, you're going to need this much low density, this much medium density, and this much higher density land. So we produced and passed that in 2023, and then so that was accepted by DLCD. We're good to go with that one. House Bill 2003 was for the housing production strategies, and basically this was a document that follows along with the HNA and says, well, here's some strategies we're going to undertake to produce more housing, particularly in the existing lands that we have. And so we did that concurrently with the HNA, and we had a bunch of different policies, including reevaluating ADU standards, developing cottage cluster standards, looking at our system development charges to see if there's any way that we can sort of structure them to promote different housing types, and then developing resources for developing resources for different groups to come in and see what pots of money might be available locally, statewide, federally, et cetera. And an implementation timeline. Well, this original document that we put out was rejected by DLCD. Basically, they said, don't bother turning it in. We're going to have issues with, there's going to be more public process. You need to do more public process and explicitly state how you brought in consumers of housing and producers of housing. So basically bring in developers and talk to them and see what they think about, the current standards and policies in the development code. You can imagine what they might say. And then the other comment was to develop more robust strategies, so really flesh out the strategies that were in the existing document. So we took that and said, okay, understood. We submitted another grant to finish the housing production strategy and take care of those comments. We hired 3J Consulting, which was one of the in-house DLCD consulting firms. So basically they said, you want one of just on one of yours? Yes, please do. They know the process. They're going to get us there. We formed the technical advisory committee, which included DLCD on them. And again, more, we tried to identify people in the development communities, people who are producing housing, and then local advocacy groups and folks of that nature. And then we did surveys and stakeholder interviews to flesh out that public process. When we came forward to both the commission and council, they said, yeah, we want similar strategies. We're not so much interested in creating pots of taxpayer money or giving breaks on infrastructure development. We want sort of more to be about what you can build in development code amendments, and then ways that the city can pitch in here and there. So we passed very similar standards, but did flesh out what the standards were. We had a much more robust implementation timeline that said, okay, we're going to do these policies immediately, these policies in 3 years, and this is our implementation plan. Remanded again, and remanded saying we addressed the comments that were there the first time, but with a whole new set of comments. That basically we didn't talk about the burdens of each strategy and weigh them against the potential benefits. They wanted more tying of the strategies that developed to specific needs that were identified in the public process, such as ADA compliance, and then more robust implementation strategy, particularly with how we were going to address homeless situations. What was interesting about the comments that came back is almost there were a couple that were sort of well taken, and I think where we could have fleshed out the document a little better, but basically there's one set of standards, and these I provided. This is the one that ends in 660. I forget what the next set of numbers is. 050, which sets out the document structure, and so it tells you all the components that you need to put in the structure, and then you have the review ones, which are 660 055, which says here's how we're going to review it. Well, in the review strategy, it gives this broad, sweeping ability for the DLCD commenters to basically come in and say, it basically says that they can do stuff that is important to the commission. It's as this whole set of standards and anything that the commission deems important. So it basically allows them kind of a blank check to to provide comment, and that's what we believe. That's what we believe happened there. So the upshot is the LCD is supporting our work to amend and address the comments, and they're funding 3J to continue their work with us and revise the document. And we're fairly confident that we can do that just by better articulating the burdens of each strategy and how how their strategies address some of the concern areas addressed in the report. But we're also talking to League of Oregon Cities and looking into other options for recourse. And I don't know if you want to expand on that any further, Mac. But
Yeah, thank you. So I want to nutshell this a little bit. Mr. Zinder kind of knows my diatribe. He's heard it 5,000 times since we got this letter. More or less what's happened, and this is my perspective for what it's worth, more or less what's happened is we put together a housing production strategy that appeared to meet all the standards, except that DLC decided that our public process, which isn't spelled out, it's not like we missed a step, they just said, hey, we're looking at this and we just don't think it's good enough. For the reasons Mr. Zinder said, and I replied with, well, we invited those people to attend. We invited everyone to attend and provide any comment they wanted, written, in person, come to a town hall, come to a planning commission meeting. We heard this thing 6 times in planning commission and city council meetings, at public meetings. We held public hearings. We did all this stuff, and those folks chose not to comment. So what are we supposed to do? How do you make someone comment who doesn't want to comment? They were invited, and they chose not to be here. Well, you need to ask more, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, we ended up calling in favors to some of our local developers and saying, hey, we really, really need you to comment on this thing, or DLC is not going to let it pass. But with that, we started and redid this whole process, right? We redid this entire housing production strategy by and large. I mean, there were a few areas that were already pretty settled, but by and large, we went through the whole strategy and the whole process again. This time, we used a DLCD, a consultant, so they have a list of consultants that has worked well with DLCD and et cetera, et cetera. So we said, yeah, we'll use one of your consultants. We had a member of DLCD on the TAC team. So we said, we don't want this thing to not pass again. We're using a lot of staff time, et cetera, even though it's grant funded, which is at least one nice part for the community, the taxpayers. But, alas, we want to get the thing done and, done the right way so we can put it behind us, do what we need to do. So we get through this process where the only comment on our housing production strategy, I believe, was that we were short on public process.
there's that, and flesh out the strategies a little more.
And to flesh out strategies. So those were our comments. So we go through this whole process again, this time with a sufficient public process. We have DLCD on the TAC team. They don't tell us, they tell us like one of these 4 items, one part of these 4 items that tend to have 3 or 4 parts to them, if you notice. And got no feedback otherwise from DLCD that there was anything amiss. So the first time we put this report up, it was just public process. And that whatever Mr. Zinder mentioned there, right? And so we did that, the public process, fleshed them out better, and now we have 4 new comments on this thing. And so, and to be honest with you, we had a meeting with DLCD, and I just asked them for their statutory authority for some of their things. I acquiesced, some of this we could have done better, although it would have been nice to hear about it a long time ago. But, so, there are a couple things that we could have done a little bit better, but not all of this stuff. And I don't even know where this stuff comes from. I can't even find where any of this is a requirement in any statute or any administrative rule that you guys have for this thing. And wouldn't you know, they can't cite anything. They tried to tell me that there's this combination of different provisions in the statute and the rule that all combine to, counsel towards this, right? So in other words, I said, okay, well, just read me where it says we have to do that. That's all I need you to do. Just read it to me. Well, they can't because it doesn't exist. So anyhow, that's what we're dealing with. We've gotten some comments back from folks in the land use and long-range planning community, specifically a couple of land use attorneys. I'm not going to use their names because the LCD and all that good stuff, but But a couple of land use attorneys, we didn't ask to look at this thing, and they're typically, in a posture that is, adversarial to us in the land use processes, adversarial to a degree when they're doing development, those sorts of things. They're representing clients. It's how they know of us. And that's why they're watching Molalla, because they have clients out here. And they even provided stuff that said, I don't even understand what some of this means. And these are high-level land use attorneys, and so it was kind of like, and I think one comment was even, man, this looks like oppression, right? I mean, was the exact words, and I can't, I don't want to get into a victim stance by any means, but it's weird. It doesn't really pass the smell test for me, but alas, like Mr. Zinder said, DLCD is offered to pay the cost to finish the report, so there's at least that. And that's kind of where we sit. I don't know that I have much more than that.
So I have another piece to the UGB stuff, but I figured we'll pause here and sort of answer any questions to the extent there are, or let discussion facilitate.
I just find it weird they can't give you a code structure that they can point a finger to and say, this is what you need to do. That's just in and void to me when I'm doing any type of work with any city. You can't say it, this is what I need to do, I don't need to do it.
That's
Just hypothetical.
I couldn't hypothetically agree more.
So it just seems, it boils down to one of those personal things, and everybody has them, and you have to work around it.
That's kind of where we sit. So
It's unfortunate.
So can you figure out why it really seems like they just want to delay the process? What's the benefit of delaying it from the DLCDs?
there's the potential that if it's delayed long enough that we could be subject to the new rules that will be coming out in January.
Exactly.
I don't think that we will be.
Yeah.
I think that we're going to have this buttoned up. And we had a really good consultant, by the way. I want to make sure that folks know, like, our consultant did their job.
Yeah.
Very much so. In fact, there's things that we got dinged for in our report that other people put in their report and did not, and theirs passed. And we're getting dinged for it. So a lot of those things are being brought up to the director of DLCD via the League of Oregon Cities, which is one of their roles, is to try and support us smaller communities that don't have the ability to, have a lobbyist on staff or don't represent, 750,000 votes, so the clout that the words carry is not as strong. So LLC, is one of their roles is to kind of represent the conglomeration of all of us small cities so that we do represent a big enough constituency to make an impact. And they have been great and are concerned about what they're seeing. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out. But in the interim, we're staying on a footing to just continue this thing through and get it done, because we don't want to turn down the money and then end up having to do it anyway, and then the taxpayers of Molalla directly have to foot the bill, even though they're, in part, every one of us is footing the bill as a taxpayer. It's substantially less than if it's just one small community as opposed to a statewide pool, which is kind of the difference. So.
But as far as the why, it's sort of we're kind of left scratching our heads, and it might be just sort of the academic whims of one of the reviewers, or it could be, we've speculated on a couple things, but it could be, there's a preference to have different types of strategies in the adoption document. That's certainly a consideration, but it's hard to get it there because at the same time all these comments are coming back, but we're not getting a clear answer what we're doing wrong. So it's perplexing. I think our consultant is pretty optimistic that she can rewrite it to meet those comments, and hopefully that's the end of them.
Good.
All right, so I think I'll move on to so the greater UGB amendment process and sort of where we're at in that. So again, so we passed the housing needs analysis, economic opportunities analysis, which is sort of the same, the economic side of the same coin, figuring out how much land we have, how much we need, and and doing that analysis. And then we did an efficiency measures, which is a rezoning. So that map is going to be, knock on wood, that map is going to be out of date, fairly certain once that hopefully gets through DLCD. And I actually did chat with our rep, and I'm pretty positive that's going to move through with some comments. But we'll see on that one as well. So we got those pieces through, and now and again, that goal 14 analysis that's looking at potential areas to expand. And now we're looking at, doing the actual expansion. So for that, we recently submitted another grant to DLCD. So at the end of our Goal 14 analysis, our Goal 14 analysis focused mostly on what are called the exception lands, the exception to Goal 14, these lands that are south of the city that had a zoning designation that was a non-resource designation. So other like rural residential or farm forest type designations that would allow, that make them first priority when cities look to expand their urban growth boundaries. And there's this whole prioritization within the state rules. First you're looking at these exception lands, these non-resource lands. Then if you have any urban reserves, which we don't, you go to those. And then there's low-value farmland and high-value farmland. And ours, for all intents and purposes, the land around our city is either that non-resource exception land or the high-value farmland. There's a couple slight exceptions, but it's really either that first priority or fourth priority. Where you'd go to. So our Goal 14 analysis primarily looked at the sub-areas within the exception lands to the south of the city. And the reason that we did that is we talked extensively with the DLCD rep and other DLCD staff members. And their argument was that, so to move from priority 1 land, which we had an abundant amount of, in terms of acreage, to meet the needs found in the economic opportunities analysis and housing needs analysis, that unless there was some burden of practicability to expand to those lands, you couldn't jump to a lower priority, to lower priority lands, to that high value farmland. And the standard of impracticability that was cited was based on, other urban growth boundary expansions, and it was basically the idea was that instead, unless we had like a bridge going over the Molalla River, or it was like there was some exception lands like half a mile outside the city, but high value farmland in between them, that was sort of the threshold of burden that would label lands impractical to get there. So southern expansion has raised a lot of concerns from the community, and we held a meeting on April 22nd. We held meetings with City Council, and at each of those meetings, both the public and then when Council was present, and certainly folks on the Commission have raised similar concerns. A lot of concerns about those lands were raised, that basically the cost of expanding utilities basically over Bear Creek would be very substantial. You need, at the very least, a lift station to move water over Bear Creek for any of those. That's a substantial burden. There's longer jogs to expand substantial water lines down there versus other areas around the city. Disruption of environmental and social factors. There's sizable wetlands in the exception lands. There are, there's a lot of sort of smaller residential communities down there. There's smaller personal family farms and similar things within those cultural resources down there that would be disrupted by expanding the urban growth boundary. And so those concerns are actually considered with the broader factors that are considered in Goal 14 once prioritization is considered. So once you say, okay, within priority 1, then you're actually looking at you're looking at cost, you're looking at transportation. Transportation is another issue where the expansion of transportation facilities to the south would be fairly substantial. So in doing that, we're like, well, shoot, is there any way to do something different? And we've looked at a couple. There's been a couple other cities that have moved legislative amendments through to. There've been similar applications, but not actually for urban growth boundary expansion. I think there was like a sort of a one-time urban growth boundary expansion that went through. But we started talking to our reps and to the governor's office, and the governor's office was actually very interested in hearing our concerns, and they've been fairly receptive to it. Another point of interest is prior to us talking to the governor's office, we had been interested in doing a more robust cost analysis of what it would go to the south versus going to some of the sub areas in the north or to the west of the city, where some of those utility costs wouldn't be as high. And what we were told by DLCD outright is that DLCD wouldn't support that kind of analysis for it. That basically, that we ought to go forward with our urban growth boundary with the analysis that we have that looks primarily at the southern exception land sub areas. Sure enough, after, I want to say, was it after a first or a second meeting, we get a call from our rep that says, actually, we will be considering, we will be considering giving funding to a study that would look more holistically at the lands outside your city. So at that point, we did submit a grant to DLCD for their housing assistance. It's relevant to urban growth boundary that would create more residential land. And basically, we submitted the housing grant to perform the more robust cost analysis of additional sub areas within the study area. We would incorporate that analysis into our Goal 14, so we'd expand that. And then the grant would also cover additional public engagement, including public meetings and hearings, and continuation of consultation with the action committee and the action committees that were created, advisory committees, that were created previously for Goal 14 analysis and the UGB amendment, and then to actually bring the amendment process through city adoption, not through the county process, but through the city adoption. So basically, we would bring this the rest of the way home, and then consider the other sub areas. And so DLCD's decision on this grant application is expected this month.
So in my reading of their complaints, one of the things that I saw is they made the comment that 16% of the citizens of Molalla or residents have one or more disabilities. Molalla currently is almost totally flat. It's a totally walkable city. If we expand to the south, you have lost that, and all of those added lands because it's so hilly. I think that's something we might mention in our analysis.
Point well taken. I like that.
And another thing, and I just hate it, but they talk about, well, first of all, zombie homes, which I don't think we have any. But they love talking about affordable housing. There's no such thing. You cannot build affordable housing in this market. What you do have is government subsidized housing that will never be affordable to anyone.
Did you happen to see the crux of that comment? That's one of the comments that really blew my hair back. The crux of that comment is, don't fix zombie houses in your city because
Yes.
it'll make the neighborhood too nice.
Yeah.
That's the crux of it. That's not verbatim by any means, but that's the crux of it. I was blown away. I mean, just blown away. So we need to they want us to do some analysis or some work to show that by fixing zombie houses, i.e. trap houses, places that people go and, flop, and, abandoned homes that are decaying, they don't want us to correct those without some other action because it might make the neighborhood too.
It's because
too
Mollalla's too
unaffordable.
nice. They would like us to be a dump like Portland is.
I was pretty blown away by that comment. And again, there's nothing in the statute that says, you know, make your neighborhood zombie housing. Nothing. Or leave it that way or anything else.
Crazy.
It's the sake for you.
And I'm speechless in public meetings, but outside of them, I've got a lot to say.
That's a lot. All right, well, I appreciate the update on that. And it looks like there's another update from you for the school district.
Yeah, so basically this one is, we were thinking of having the meeting at a different time next month. I wanted to check in with the commission, see if that works for you all. So basically the recommendation would be to change the date for next month's planning commission from the Wednesday, October 1st to Wednesday, October 15th, or a similar mid-October date to best accommodate timing on the Molalla River School District Middle School application. And the short of that is so that they've submitted their application to the city. They submitted a traffic impact analysis that included counts, I believe, from last May. And this is with regards to consideration of a light at Leroy. That analysis didn't meet warrants. None of the warrants were met based on the traffic counts that they did at that time. And we've advised the school district, and they've acquiesced to do a second run of counts sometime this month. The short of that is that if the October 1st date would just be a little, it would be a little tight, and we wouldn't even have sort of a sense of what the results of that would even be at that time. So we're advising to extend to the 15th, which would allow the city to that would allow them to get those counts, that would allow them to process it, and then we'd at least be able to bring them to the commission. The October 15th date would also set us well within the timeline before November 28th to just render any appeals that may happen as a result of this project. So it would allow, that's the sort of 120-day deadline that we have to have finished processing the application.
Right.
I think maybe the salient point that I think you skipped over, but I'm not sure, is that we're asking them to perform the signal warrant counts during the school year.
Yep.
Yes.
When children are actually crossing the crosswalk and et cetera. One of the reasons we did learn, and I think we learned this a while back and we might have shared it, but it was just a good reminder, and I think a good reminder for all of us, is we had met all but like 2 of the warrants, or at least that's the Kittleson analysis, and then we hit the 10,000 mark. Apparently at the 10,000 mark, you lose this discount that you get. So your warrant, let's just say, I'm just throwing a number, this is not the number, but let's say the warrant was 100 trips eastbound, during such and such a time frame, right? In order to trigger the warrant. Okay, well, we get a 10% discount being under 10,000, so that means we would only had to hit 90 trips. So that's why what happened is we were close to warrants, and then boom, we hit 10,000. The warrants went up 10% in value. So we got further away from them, even though we added more traffic.
Yep.
Anyhow, that's how it works, apparently.
So set up some detours is what you're saying.
Burning tires and stuff.
So,
Tulliver Road closed, yeah. Exactly.
so was that traffic analysis done in May of this year or May of last year?
It was done this year.
Was that apartment complex completely full by then? Because I don't think
I
it
don't know.
was. Because adding that other complex, I think, might just push it over with back
Yeah.
to school section. And I mean, I'm with Ray for years of getting that light at Leroy.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down, it needs to be there.
Anytime that signal comes anywhere close to any land use action we have, we're, really beating the drum on making sure that we're getting the appropriate counts during the appropriate times, kind of like you're seeing here.
Yeah.
It was mind-boggling to me, and it was just a refresher because I asked ODOT's traffic engineer, who we meet with on these things regularly, and I just said, I don't get it. how were we at meeting 7 of the 9 warrants? We add 3 apartment complexes and now we meet like 4 of them. I don't understand. And he reminded me about the 10% and all that. So I was, oh, okay. Not being a traffic engineer, I kind of, that's a little bit of a foreign
Because now we
concept.
have the second phase of another apartment complex there.
Yeah.
And we have the Bear Creek new apartments. They're not quite full yet because the second
Right.
phase of Bear Creek isn't up and running completely.
Right.
But all those people in those apartments going to the school might change things.
Could be. Could be, and it could, maybe it could have been a rainy day that day, there's a whole bunch of
knows?
there's a whole bunch of factors, but we wanted to make double sure that the current state is properly
But
accounted for.
most
with
traffic
the school.
analysis are longer than a couple days. They're weeks.
So how many times a day do we need to drive up and down that? Should we sign up?
Walk. That's
Use the crosswalk. We got.
Just go back and
We'll
forth.
let you know when the analysis happens. Just kidding.
No, but we need to do something to get a light there, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
But that's in seriousness, it's that, because ODOT's not concerned if the east-west warrant breaks.
north-south.
It's the north-south, because then that indicates that traffic going one way or the other needs to slow.
Exactly.
If they have a lot of cars going east-west, they don't want to slow them
Stop
down.
it, yeah.
Or likewise, there's pedestrian warrants, and actually that's the one that perhaps the most likely to get hit. And that, like you said, with the new apartment complexes down there could be a fair number of school children that are crossing
Walking
in the AM and then the afternoon peak.
Yeah, correct.
They have a very reputable traffic engineer doing their studies, so I think we're going to get very valid numbers, whatever they may be. I think we're going to get
Yeah.
a
Let's
pretty
hope.
top of the line study.
Does those traffic studies factor in accidents as well in that intersection?
It does.
The reason I'm asking, we just saw one like 2 days ago, so.
Yeah, there is some safety analysis and stuff, but yeah, so it's in there. I don't know how it's weighted or any of that, because again, I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't even analyze these things.
Yeah.
Give it to the engineers to.
I'm good for the 15th, so. I don't know if
Yeah,
you see this.
I'm good.
I might be out of town, but I don't know yet for sure.
Fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all seem good.
Maybe, Commissioner Sharp, would you want to call in perhaps, or?
I could, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll find out.
I'm not positive. I mean, just to the extent that you want to be involved in the decision, because it is going to be a land use decision that night. Obviously we can set you up for that. Just keep me posted. And if not, we've got a quorum with the five
There's 5,
folks
yeah.
here, and possibly Commissioner
6.
Hodgkinson. We could have 6, so we should be able to proceed either way. But let me know,
I will.
and we'll also touch base if everyone's good with going ahead and saying we're going to do it on the 15th.
Do it on the 15th.
Okay.
Okay, we'll send
Right
an
on.
update tomorrow to everyone on the commission and get any feedback as far as who needs to be set up on telephone or Zoom. If that needs to happen, we'll make it happen.
All right. Sounds good. Appreciate it. Any other questions on that?
Does that mean we skipped the November one then?
Yes. The first week of November would be pushed to the second week or the third week.
No, it doesn't necessarily.
No.
The October 1st goes away,
October, yeah, October.
but November.
Yeah.
November is
What kind
to
of
be-
deal for November, bro?
To the extent, I will tell you what, I mean, to the extent that I think there's going to be at least something to review.
Okay.
Not necessarily an end use decision, but we're doing so much long range planning, it's hard for me to say that we won't. We probably will have something to put in front of you to get a recommendation up to council on, but it could be a very short meeting, and we could look at moving dates around if that works for people. I mean, the holiday season's pretty common for that anyway, so if you guys want to take a look at that, we can talk about that, or email us or do whatever you want to do as far as that
Didn't
goes.
traditionally we have like a joint meeting around that time?
Yeah, you're right.
Last year we did November.
Yeah, let me touch base.
Because if we have the joint, why don't we just do that?
That's exactly what we would do. Let
Yeah.
me touch base with the city recorder on that, and I'll send you guys all, or Jess or I will send you guys all out an email, kind of with what I hear.
Okay.
Sounds like another good UGB update, at least.
No, that'll be all OJAC.
Then I've got another basketball game.
Well, I have one more question. In all of their comments, it says something about an urban renewal area. Do we have one?
We do. Yeah, we have the Molalla Urban Renewal Area, and I would love to describe it to you, but it's like this weird thing with tentacles. I can show you a map. we have.
That'd be interesting. Just
Yeah.
curious.
Yeah, absolutely. It covers about 30% of the city's land.
Wow. I don't think much of urban renewal plans, but interesting.
There's some value in them, I think, but we could talk about that offline.
Okay.
Does anybody got any other follow-up questions? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Zinder, for all of
Sure.
that.
Chair, before you move to the next
Yeah.
item, I'm sorry, I'm noticing
Okay.
that we've got an error on our agenda and we
Oh.
didn't amend it. I'm hoping I could get a motion from you guys to amend the agenda to remove items 11 and 12 on the agenda.
Sorry, I'm not seeing it.
11 and 12?
11?
Yeah, it talks-
We have 11 for adjourn and there's no 12. Let's leave that.
There was two agendas.
Yeah, mine's different. Mine has 11 and it says recess to executive session.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing.
Yes.
This, I'm not on my computer. Mine doesn't have it.
I'm off the website and it just says adjourn for 11.
Okay. Good to go.
Yes, I had printed out
But
the,
that's the one that was posted, so that's the one that matters. And
Okay.
It sounds like, never mind. But if, to the extent you have the one that has executive session on it, that is not for us.
I didn't think so.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. I read that today.
Yeah, we don't have that on this.
that's what I got when I
All right.
printed it. Yeah.
So do we need to make a motion?
No,
Okay.
it sounds like the right one was posted. I'm just looking at one that's
Okay.
different.
He's got it.
What was posted?
Okay. Sounds good. All right then. Well then, moving on. So staff communication. Does staff have anything else outside of like any progress updates or anything else like that, like projects and stuff going on?
Our new associate planner, Clarissa Davis, starts next
sorry?
Wednesday. Our new associate planner, Clarissa Davis,
Oh.
starts next Wednesday, a week from today.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thrilled to have her.
She'll be in here to meet you guys on the 15th.
Yeah.
We'll scare her too.
Or if you want to come say hi, you know where to find us.
That seems to be the kiss of death.
We're not going to talk about that. Anything else?
That's what I have.
Okay, well, I've got a few. Let's see, where do we start? So Chief Elkis Park is winding down. We've got the landscape in, the parking area is pretty much in. There's a few things to be built there, some fixtures to be built, some fixtures to be installed, signage and some tables. But pretty close to finishing that up here. So I would hope that would be finished here by late September at the very latest, and we'll let you guys know about the grand opening. If any of you guys wants to come, we'll do like a ribbon cutting type deal. So that should be getting going here pretty quick. We are in the process of clearing the. I'm calling it this. This is not the name. Cemetery Park, the one down there at kind of the intersection of Below Road and Molalla Forest Road. Down there where the cemetery is. That's being cleared by the ant farm. So we'll start out clearing the blackberries, and then we're working with the Pudding River Watershed Council. They'll come in, they have an applicator, they'll come in and do some spraying, and then next year we'll cut them again and spray them again. And then we'll come back and start to plant some shading trees and that sort of thing. It's really the only way to keep those things down is to the level of sun. And then we should have at least a blank canvas for a new park in town. So we'll start working on concept design with you guys and the rest of the community once we have that stuff kind of beaten down. It was 12-foot tall blackberry bushes completely infesting the park. So starting to work on that so that we can have another park. So that's Chief Yoga sets those two. Oddfellows Park. We are currently working to get some cameras put up in Oddfellows Park, and so we're working with MCC on that. Just, there's a few more moving parts than what people sometimes expect. Got to get power moved out there. We got to, find or build, well, really build or buy and install a vault for their, for their switches and that sort of stuff. So, a little more involved than you might think to just go hang some cameras like we do at our house or whatever. But that's in work, so we're getting that rolling. I think that'll be a big improvement over there. Keep any of the nefarious activity, hopefully, folks.
Yeah.
The sunlight tends to cure things. Anyways, so working on that, the wastewater treatment plant, the SBR walls are going up. So that's a pretty cool process, really a big old piece of infrastructure. It's cool for me to watch, but neat. So it's moving along. That's on time. We're actually going to be, right now we're working on, and I don't want it to sound like this is a for sure thing, but we're working on doing due diligence and feasibility to see if we can move up the sludge removal from Lagoon 1. We basically had till 2033 to remove the sludge from Lagoon 1. We were going to do Lagoon 2 in concert with this project, and we're seeing that we think we're more than likely going to be able to bump that up and get all the sludge out of both lagoons during this project, with probably about a 3-month project extension on this. So instead of 6 more years after project completion to remove the sludge, and an additional 3 months is going to get us home, I think. But we're still working through all the feasibility on that, but it's looking very feasible. So that's a good thing.
That's good.
Police station is on time. The new PD is on time, and I think actually maybe a little bit under budget at the moment, which is great.
For now.
For now, right?
Yeah.
I said at the moment. But yeah, so it's moving along, and they are still looking to be at punch list in December and move in January. So that has not changed in any way, and I've heard no rumblings that it is. And, they haven't hit anything major yet, and they're pretty far down the road. So if any luck, they won't. So that's a good thing. So that's moving along. The water intake. The council adopted the pre-design report for the water, for the new water intake, and we are in the process of working with Business Oregon to look at different grant financing instruments to fuel that project. We also have, I think, $2 million, which would be almost half of that project cost, total project cost, going to the federal government. I don't even know what they call the process, but basically your representative puts you on a list. If you make it through committee, which apparently we have, or we're in committee right now, then you go to the full vote, and then you get that money for your infrastructure project. So with any luck, we'll be able to get $2 million for that in a federal grant, and the other $3 million, obviously we're looking at various instruments, both grant and loan, for that right now. And we're working a scope and timeline for the design phase. So the design phase on anything that's in the water, or anything that deals really with wastewater or water, is pretty onerous, because we have in-water work time, which is very, very limited. So sequencing the project is difficult, and then you have just a slew of permits that you have to get from everything from the Corps of Engineers, Department of State Lands, to Oregon Water Resources Department, to you name it. So that's kind of a big design process due to the permitting, because it's just a giant bunch of work. But we're getting started on that. That's moving along well. Let me think if there's any other major ones. Not at the moment. Strawberry Park is currently closed. It's just closed for a bit here. We don't know exactly how long. We're working on a design. The drainage that was in that park was not sufficient for the type of surfacing that was put onto it. So it was causing that surfacing, that poured in place rubber stuff, to bubble a whole bunch and have problems. So when we dug into that, we realized that the water table was coming up to the point where it was causing some pretty significant issues there. So we're going back and retrofitting some drainage. It shouldn't be a huge project. It's just a matter of the contractor having the time to get out here and do it. So that's closed indefinitely, but I would not anticipate that being closed more than a couple of months, but by then it's going to be winter time. So it'll be open by next spring for sure. And that's really, I think, all I've got off the top of my head right now. Does anyone has questions about any particular?
I did notice that middle school's got their fence up, construction fence,
Yeah,
the signs. So
ready.
they're getting ready. All right. Well, thank you. Commission? Does anybody have any?
I have nothing.
Chamber? Anything?
Nothing.
Nothing?
What do you look at me like that for? I got nothing. Sir.
No?
Nothing.
I am going to, related to the middle school, I'm going to make a little mild PSA. First day of school, I live pretty much right across the street from the construction site. Because of the construction fencing that's gone up, it's reduced a lot of opportunity for parking off the street for pickup and drop off and stuff. So I would urge the neighbors to endure some patience and understanding during this long process that's just getting started, that they might have random cars in their front of their houses or on the side streets around the property.
Are you seeing that mostly on the Hezzy side or on the Leroy side?
It was on Leroy, my side. It just started today, so I don't know, maybe people are just getting adjusted this first day of school, but if it continues, just a heads up.
Absolutely, and please keep me posted because
Yeah.
you've got eyes on it.
Yeah.
That whole north lot is closed
Yeah.
in front of the field?
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the whole lot. Yeah, the site plans for the construction indicated that when in our original town hall meetings that they were gonna fence off up. They're like practically within like 4 feet of the wall of the existing building.
Oh, wow.
So there's just basically a walk path to get down one side of the building, the existing school.
So that path that would go back that you could actually drive on and then park back behind the school?
I don't know about that. It doesn't look wide enough for a car.
Okay.
But anyway, just a little heads up. So hopefully people, they'll get adjusted as it goes. But right now, I think parents were they were not expecting to have that lot blocked off. So I think they were just kind of like, oh. So, but just in case.
I did think of something.
Yes.
On the cameras that you're going to put up in the park, is it going to have a sign that says you're on camera so they know?
I think that's a really good idea. I think, yes, absolutely.
I'm across the street, it's entertainment all day long.
I'm sure it is.
Well, we'll
Oh
have
my,
video
some of the
for
things
you
I've
now.
seen, I could write a book.
There was a grand piano there in the park the other day. Not a
It's-
grand piano.
No, it's just a regular
A
piano.
regular piano.
They
Yeah,
carry
they
it
brought
across
it.
the street?
No.
No idea.
A truck showed up, unloaded it on a hand cart with a big ratchet strap, and we were laughing because we figured, well, that's not going to last all night. But next morning, of course, the ratchet strap and the cart are gone, but the piano has been there almost 2 weeks.
Wow.
And then they were in it and taking it apart and had the keys out and putting the keys in. Then they moved it over in front of Mr. Deerdorf's one building. So I let Mr. Deerdorf know that he had received a piano. Yeah. Anyway, and the nudity thing has been interesting, and
Just put spotlights on top of Deerdorf's building.
it's just been,
There you go.
yeah. We thought about putting a camera on our building so we didn't miss anything,
I do think it's important hearing this. I think it's important to mention, and I'm not saying that you're not by any means. This is more for everyone, that millions at home and everyone. If you're seeing something that looks out of line going on, really anywhere in town, but at the park included, we've got to ask you to report it. It's really important.
Believe me, we do.
I know. That's just was
Yeah.
a good opportunity for a PSA. It's just please make sure you report it because folks, without your eyes, there's 4 to 6 cops working at a given time, and 2 of those are often the chief and lieutenant doing admin stuff. They can't have eyes on everything all the time. They're more than willing, more than able to come and take care of these situations when they occur. We just got to know about them. So if you're seeing stuff, please report it. Even if you think it might not be something, that's okay. Let them figure it out. They'll decide if it's something or not, and no hard feelings at all. So.
Documentation.
Well, that's all I got. So with that, I guess we're going to go into adjournment. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Nope. All right. Then I adjourn this meeting at 7:32 p.m.